Sorry. Did I wake you?
There's something deeply unsettling about snow. It hides everything. Footprints disappear, blood vanishes, entire stories get swallowed in white silence. And when I watched the first official trailer for the Yeti, I realized something immediately. This isn't just another creature feature. This is a survival story wrapped inside myth, and maybe something even darker. Because what if the monster isn't just hunting them? What if it's protecting something? Before we begin, would you please support me? Subscribing is free and very important to me. For better analysis and more videos, please subscribe and like. Well Go USA just dropped the official trailer for The Yeti, an independent horror thriller that dares to reimagine the legendary snow beast in a way that feels stripped down, primal, and disturbingly intimate. Directed and co-written by Gene Gallerano and William P. Chota, this film isn't trying to be loud. It's not throwing CGI chaos at us. It's doing something much more dangerous. It's holding back, and that restraint might be its greatest weapon. The story takes us to the late 1940s. A famous adventurer, Hollis Bannister, played by William Sadler, and powerful oil tycoon Mariel Sunday Seaster, portrayed by Corbin Burnson, vanish without a trace in the brutal northern wilderness of Alaska. No bodies, no signals, nothing, just snow. Their children, Ellie Bannister, played by Brittany Allen, and Mariel Sunday Jr., portrayed by Eric Nelson, organize a search party to find their missing fathers. What begins as a rescue mission slowly mutates into something else entirely, because something ancient has noticed them, and it does not want them there. The trailer is fascinating because it barely shows the Yeti. We get atmosphere, we get tension, we get fear in human faces, but the creature itself, almost nothing. And that choice is intentional. Classic monster cinema understood something modern horror sometimes forgets. What you don't see is often far more terrifying than what you do. When I watch this trailer, I don't just see a snowy landscape. I see isolation weaponized. I see a time period where communication was limited, rescue was uncertain, and nature was not something you conquered. It conquered you. The 1940s setting is critical. This isn't satellite phones and GPS. This is compasses, instinct, and fear, and that makes every step into the wilderness feel like stepping into myth itself. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The filmmakers openly describe the Yeti as a throwback to the golden age of creature features. They reference practical effects. They reference tension. They reference carefully built characters. And they even mention blending a 1,950-second cinemascope feel with a backyard, J.J. Abrams-inspired filmmaking aesthetic. That combination alone tells me something. This isn't trying to be the Meg. This is trying to be something closer to The Thing in spirit, not necessarily in plot, but in tone. Slow burn dread, paranoia, survival against something ancient and unknowable. And if you've seen enough creature horror, you know this formula either fails spectacularly or becomes unforgettable. Let's talk about the cast for a moment. William Sadler brings gravitas. Corbin Burnson brings authority. Brittany Allen has proven she can carry emotional intensity. Eric Nelson adds grounded realism. Jim Cummings, Christina Bennett Lind, Heather Lind. This isn't a random B-movie lineup. This is a serious ensemble for an independent horror film. And that makes me ask the question I know some of you are already thinking. Is this going to surprise us? Because the trailer is bold in its restraint. It doesn't oversell. It doesn't scream. It whispers. The rating from the MPA is R for bloody violent content and some grisly images. That confirms something important. The film will not be gentle, and that matters. Creature features only work when the threat feels real. If the Yeti is truly a prehistoric predator, then the violence has to feel raw, not stylized, not cartoonish, raw. Now let's dig deeper into the myth itself. The Yeti, often associated with Himalayan folklore, is sometimes described as a distant cousin to Sasquatch. But here's what fascinates me. This film places the creature in Alaska, not the Himalayas. That geographical shift is intentional. Alaska's northern wilderness is brutal, unforgiving, and vast beyond imagination. It feels ancient. It feels untouched. It feels like a place where something could have survived unnoticed for centuries. And when the trailer suggests that the creature may be older than the Arctic itself, that line changes everything. Because now we're not just dealing with a monster. We're dealing with history, something prehistoric. Something that predates human ambition, oil drilling, and exploration, which makes Mariel Sunday Sea Oster, being an oil magnate, extremely symbolic. Are they searching for their fathers? Or are they trespassing in territory that was never meant to be disturbed? That thematic layer could elevate this film beyond simple survival horror. If the Yeti is protecting something land, territory, balance, then suddenly the lines blur. Who is the real intruder? And this is where I want you to think with me for a second. If you were lost in the Arctic wilderness in 1949, and you started hearing something following you, would you assume it was human or something older? Because the trailer's strongest moments aren't the screams, it's the silence, wind, snow, breathing, and then nothing. That kind of sound design tells me the filmmakers understand atmosphere. They understand patience, and patience is everything in horror. Now let's address the big question. Will this be good? Independent horror lives and dies by execution. Practical effects can either look incredible or painfully cheap. Minimal creature reveals can build suspense or feel like budget limitations. But here's why I'm cautiously optimistic. The directors have history with this material. Peace Joda previously made a 2020 horror short titled Yeti. That tells me this isn't a random cash-in. This is a passion project expanded into a feature. And passion matters, especially in indie horror. Well Go USA is releasing the film in select theaters and on VOD starting April 10, 2026. That hybrid release strategy suggests confidence but also realism. They know their audience. And I think they're targeting horror fans who miss the tactile, grounded monster filmmaking. No excessive CGI, no universe-building franchise bait, just snow, fear, survival, and a predator. If the film commits fully to tension, commits fully to character arcs, and delivers practical creature work that feels physical and weighty, this could quietly become one of the more interesting horror releases of 2026. But here's the thing. If it rushes the third act, if it overexposes the creature, if it sacrifices atmosphere for chaos, it could collapse. Creature horror is a tightrope. You either build dread, or you lose it. And something tells me this film understands that line. Because that trailer, it wasn't trying to impress. It was trying to unsettle. And that's a difference seasoned horror fans recognize immediately. I'm curious what you think though. Do you prefer your creature features showing the monster early, or keeping it hidden until the final act? Because that choice alone can make or break a film like this. As for me, I want mystery. I want tension. I want that feeling that something is out there in the white void. And it doesn't need to roar to prove it. The Yeti feels like a throwback, but not nostalgic in a cheesy way. It feels like it wants to remind us that horror doesn't need spectacle. It needs presence, and sometimes, absence. If this film sticks the landing, it could tap into something primal, that ancient human fear of being hunted in the wilderness. Because at the end of the day, strip away technology, strip away civilization, strip away comfort, and we are not the apex predator everywhere. Sometimes we are prey, and that's a terrifying thought. April 10, 2026 is when we find out whether this frozen nightmare delivers. Until then, I'll be watching closely, because something tells me this one might surprise people. And if it does, you'll know exactly where you heard it first. This is Screen Radar. Stay sharp. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments. This is where these kinds of films come to life. Until the next story, stay curious, be critical, keep your eyes on the screen, and remember, every film you haven't seen is a new film.